Today is the day. I want to put myself in someone's shoes. So what makes forgiveness hard is not what someone did. It is actually the aftermath of what you went through because of someone's action. Because you are trying all this time to put yourself in that person's shoe to just understand why would this person choose this path for you. You understand? But you cannot actually fathom why this person decided that this is your journey. You understand? So today I'm just here to put myself in someone's shoe, at the same time walk you through the journey of forgiveness. And I must say, I'm not expecting you to say that it is easy, because you tell me, you know how much I had to go through because of this person's silly decision? Do you know how much I've had to hurt all my life because of this particular person who just decided one day I need to do something hurtful, you understand, that would make this person undergo all these things? And sometimes when you talk about forgiveness, we are really talking about hurtful experiences, you understand, that we have carried inside our hearts for a very long time, and we are just trying to live with it. Call all these experiences that we have had to go through, and right now we are at a place of forgiveness. We can call them as monsters, because most of these experiences, we are living with them inside of us. They have even shaped who we have become today, you understand, because of that one experience that made you feel like, you know what, I can no longer trust anyone. If people can actually decide to do this to a person, why else should I trust a person? So today I'm here to, first of all, make you understand that you're not forgiving someone because that person has asked for clarity. I want to also prepare you that this journey is totally difficult, because most of the times it involves you forgiving people who are not even remorseful, you understand? So with that being said and done, hi besties, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Aski, and this is the Unscripted 20s, where we help women navigate through life not as experts, alongside Jesus Christ, ourselves as a community, and also alongside our big sister as well as here on the comment section. If you like it here already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, share, comment, like, and also tell a friend to tell a friend, because why not? And another special reminder, grab your popcorns, grab your drinks, and let's kickstart this beautiful journey of forgiveness. And one amazing journey I've been able to talk about is the journey of me forgiving my father. And most people will be like, why would you not forgive your father? You understand? It's something normal that you know that this person is your parent, so you should just forgive. You understand? And there are people who just come up with narratives and be like, you know what? At the end of the day, this is your father. You understand? But for people who have actually undergone certain traumas that you feel like your father was there, wouldn't have experienced them, then they can actually understand that, you know, it's a process that you have to undergo. You understand? Yeah, so today we're actually doing it raw and unfiltered, because when people talk about forgiveness, we are always at that place where we just want to filter out things. We just want to make it look so, you know, like a very glittery type of a journey. But I'm telling you, it has to, it comes with a lot of weight, because you're trying to understand, you know, why did this person choose this particular path? You understand? I was at a point where I would also ask myself questions like, okay, for instance, if my mom had a problem, or if my dad was the one who was the problem, at the end of the day, they had already, you know, made me. You understand? So I was like, why would they not sit down and be like, you know what, I'm going to actually take up the responsibility of, you know, regardless of whatever has happened, to take care of my child. Yeah. So, and this one also is speaking to someone over here who has a child somewhere, be it a woman, be it a man, and you with your partner, you're having problems. When it comes to children, when you decide to have a child with someone, personally, for me, with my experience, what I have realized is that when you have children, you need to be sober enough to understand that whatsoever happens in between you two, you should be able to take up the responsibility. So it's really disturbed me for a very long time. You know, you actually do not know something is poisonous, or rather is killing you, or it's killing your identity, until that time where you have grown up and you have realized that it's actually messing and affecting so many things, including my relationships, my friendships. You understand? Because I now become someone who is very cautious to interact with people. You understand? Because I ask myself, if my father can actually do this, what about this particular person? So for a very long time, I actually struggled with relating with people, because if somebody did something wrong to me, I would be like, okay, if my father actually, you know, abandoned me and doesn't care about me, then why should I expect this person to actually, you know, ask for forgiveness? You understand? It gave me a wall inside my heart that I could not actually relate properly with people. I would not be at a place where, you know what, I could understand people. I just felt like, you know what, they're just human beings, and that is how they are. You understand? To a point that, you know, somebody would actually genuinely love you and show you that they genuinely love you, But for me, I was at a point of, this person is actually doing this so that this person can actually go. You understand? So it really messed up with me. And I just became comfortable with my own identity, not knowing that I had given rise to a monster inside of me that was blocking every relation that I was having at that particular time. So, and that's why I'm here to tell you that you do not realize you actually need to forgive people, because you have already taken it as an identity. You have already taken what you went through as your identity. And most of you'd find yourself in very good relationships. You'd find yourself in situations where you meet a lot of nice people, rather good people, but you cannot actually believe them because of what you went through. You understand? It becomes part of your identity that you now categorize everyone based on your experience, and you do not realize it. For you to actually say something was painful, there's something you actually underwent all this while. Aside from even speaking to women, I also want to speak specifically also to men. There's the kind of identity that you have actually given rise to that most of you do not know. And you find yourself that you have now started calling yourself playboys. You understand? When a woman comes in your life and that person is genuine, you make sure that you categorize that woman based on one experience. And one sad thing is that who we become based on our experiences is not only based on women. Even men actually become monsters because of certain experiences. There are men who, when they have bad experiences with their moms, they end up, becoming worse partners. You understand? Because they never had that motherly touch. You understand? Or if they have never had a father figure, they actually decide, this is my fate, and they own it. So they mask it up because of the experiences they had to undergo, not having a male figure to guide them. So they tend to, decide, I'm going to actually become worse. You understand? Or you find if a man did not have a close relationship with the mom, then it makes this person, not interact so well with women. You understand? So one thing we need to understand is that what unforgiveness does to us is that it places us in a place where, in a cocoon, where now it's like we are feeding a monster inside of us, and it brings up an identity of who we are not. You understand? And with not account who we are nowadays, because based on that experiences we learned, this is what people can actually do, and we categorize everyone as that. And that's why you find nowadays that the kind of marriages that actually last are very few, because a lot of us, we find ourselves in situations where we've carried the baggages of our previous past, or rather our previous relationships or other interactions, into our marriages. They say hurt people hurt people. So you find yourself that you are actually hurting your partner without you knowing. You understand? So I was at that point. So for a very long time, I was so caged with asking myself all these particular questions, because I could not fathom why would someone choose to have a child and not take care of that child. You understand? You know how hard it is for you not to have your father, as a child, especially in Africa. I don't know where else, but I don't know about other places, but in Africa, you understand, especially when you become a teenager, like the type of societal, how can I put it, the type of society discrimination that you had to go through. You understand? I remember when I was now an adolescent, I had not even known so much about boys, but people were giving me that side eye whenever they'd find me, saying hi to a man, or maybe a man has said hi to me. You understand? You'd find like, people assume, because my mom chose to be single, they now think that is also your path. You understand? For me, I actually experience, the way people talk about racism, me actually experience, discrimination, not racism, discrimination, in the sense that by the time I was now a teenager, people were like, don't interact with that girl. I would find myself in situations where people would judge me. You understand? Because I would express myself. I love to wear nicely. I like to put on nice clothes. You understand? I like to interact with people. And so there was that discrimination of this. That is the daughter of a single woman. So we are not supposed to our kids are not supposed to interact with her, because when they interact with her, they will end up single like her mom. You understand? So growing up with a lot of traumas that looked like that, you understand, made me have so much bitterness with my father. Or sometimes you are actually interacting with other kids, and these children are like, what, I'm going to go and say it to my father, or my father is going to do this, and you have nothing to account. You understand? So growing up, even because I would partly see my father, I would not see him like that often. Maybe I would say like 5 years then see him. You understand? Yeah, I did not have that interaction that I can say like father mother daughter, father daughter type of a relationship. It's not that we used to insult each other, but we were not at a place where I can actually say that, you know what, I'm confident that my father is there for me. You know, nowadays there's co-parenting, and for my mom, I feel like she did her part, because she was this person who was like, you want to see your child, you can actually see your child whenever you want, you understand? But I never saw that pull from my dad to, you know, come and see me, even though he was given the privilege to actually come and see me. So for me, I grew up with that particular bitterness, because sometimes you'd undergo things like, you know, lacking school fees to go to school. You know, sometimes you need your father's protection and you not get it, you understand? So as you continue to grow, what happens to you? You know, get another certain type of identity where you teach yourself how to defend yourself, how to be bold, you understand, and how to approach situations, because there's no one who's going to help you. Because at the end of the day, my mom has to go and hustle, you understand? My mom has to go and do things, you understand? So you have to know how to do your homework, how to do your assignments correctly, how to interact with other people. And for people who knew me, I was really short, and so I experienced a lot of bullying. So there's no one I can actually go and tell, you know what, I'm actually experiencing this from other students, you understand? Or if I had a problem, I had to just know how I was going to actually approach it. Up to now up to now, you understand? So it has gone to be like my identity, you understand? So I want us to go to, how did I end up forgiving my father? One thing I've told you guys is that it has been a journey. I started off with celibacy as just a walk that, you know, God was trying to tell me that, you know what, it's time to dedicate your life to me. So give me your all, you understand? So I never knew that along the process, there are things that God has been pruning. So for a very long time, I would not interact with my father, like, you know, with a lot of closeness, because I would feel like, you know what, why is this person coming like after I'm done with school? I'm done with the most important part where I needed him, you understand? I had so much bitterness that I felt like, you know what, me at this point, I want to shape my life, you understand? But along the process, as God continues to mold me, he molds me, of course, to become more prayerful, to continue, you know, reading the word of God, because there's no way you can walk alongside God and you do not have a personal relationship with him. Even if it was a relationship, so you'd want to know, like, what would this person want? This person would not want this, you understand? So even with God, that is what happened to me. Like, I had to now start reading the Bible and get to understand, what does he really require from me, so that I can actually give him, you understand? So it was at a place where myself, I was now discovering God in a new way, because initially I was just a Christian, a church goer, but I was not so much into God, because I was not even reading his word, you understand? As I discovered God, I came to realize that, you know what, there are things I just have to let go, because I was becoming who I am not, you understand? So I remember there's this time we were having a prayer session, and we were having it with our pastor, you know, our pastor's wife. She's called Pastor Eno, and it was during our midnight prayers, and she was actually saying that, you know what, the Holy Spirit, or rather God, is saying that, you know, you need to release the people that you have actually carried, you understand? Your heart is so broken based on the experiences that you've had, and now it's time for you to actually release people. Another time I had not actually registered that the person who God was actually talking about was my father, because I had actually just released people that I thought, you know, they had actually broken me and had contributed to also me being broken, you understand? But nothing had ever crossed my mind that my father was actually included in that margin, you understand, of the people that I needed to let go, you understand? So time went by, and I just found myself being in the presence of God more often. And just to put it outside there, in the journey of brokenness, you don't actually know that you are broken until something happens. That's when you realize that, you know what, that you are actually broken. So being so much concerning, you know, my heart, you understand? And I just told God, if there's something I was carrying that did not serve me and does not reflect the kind of journey that God, you are taking me, please God, take it away, you understand? And slowly by slowly, I started getting the conviction of, you know, pray about your father wounds, pray about your father wounds. So I didn't know for the first time, because, you know, I'm still a beginner. I didn't know how I'm supposed to pray concerning my father wounds. So I was like, you know what, God, this is actually tough. And sometimes I would try to pray, and, you know, I cannot actually even say anything, you understand? I just end up crying. And that's when I realized that, you know what, I'm so hurt, and this has become my identity for a very long time. But what I used to do is just mask it with a smile and just be like, you know what, me, I'm a tough lady, you understand? So I found myself that I'm actually in my masculine energy more, because, you know what, I had known that I have to be ready to fight, ready to protect myself, you understand? So I continue to go back to God, because one thing about me, my celibacy journey taught me that it's good to tell God everything. Even sometimes when you are too weak, you go, when you are actually going, even sometimes when you're going to God, sometimes you're so drained, but you're just crawling to God. You'd rather crawl and be at the presence of God, and like you are just there, you understand, not praying. So I used to just go to God and tell God. I actually do not know what to say. I had just to tell God, forgive my lighting. Actually, today we don't have electricity. So I had to just tell God, you know what? Me, I'm so angry with this man. I don't even know where to start, because of the things that I have actually gone through. You understand? Because of the things that I've actually gone through. I cannot even tell you where I want to start concerning this particular issue, but help me release him. So slowly by slowly, God started, making me get revelations as I read the word of God. Also get a deeper understanding of where my father had grown up, you understand? And based on the kind of family he had come from, he did not know what love was, you understand? So every time I would want to put a blame game, God would just try to make me see where he had come from, not know how to display love or how love should actually be expressed. You understand? So every time there was a problem, instead of him fixing the problem, he knew of moving on. You understand? And honestly, he's someone that I had already reached out and gotten to know so much about him. I felt like, whatever I was seeing as a vision was not at a point of me exaggerating things, but at a point of understanding. So I felt that God was actually protecting me, so that I did not end up becoming more hurt. That if I had grown in such a setup, you understand, most likely I would have resented both my parents, you understand, because maybe my mom would have been trying to fix the marriage, and so she would not have time for me. So I would have been that girl where once I'm done with school, I would have just gone, you understand. I would not even have wanted to have any interest of them, you understand. So God really loved me so much. He knew the purpose that he had called me for. So he was like, God is a father. So he was like, you know what, it's rather that she ends up having that pain of, I wish I had my father, but not having the trace of any pain. Because personally, I did not even experience what it means to have a father, you understand, because I was very little by the time we were actually getting out of my father's place, you understand. So I cannot even account how it felt to be carried by my father, because I was very small, you understand. So with this major understanding, it made me realize that, the more I keep him inside my heart, I am actually doing injustice to myself, because this is someone who has a baggage already, you understand. And this is someone who will never come to the conclusion that, I actually did wrong to my daughter, you understand, and I need to ask for forgiveness. So I needed to move on. I've always told myself that I want to create a better life for myself. I want to create a better setup for myself. And I remember yesterday we were even having a conversation about my mom, concerning kids. Like, I've never been that type of a person who has just sat down and be like, I want 5 kids, I want 10 kids, you understand? Because I've learned to know that, kids don't just come. They need to find a friendly environment, a healthy environment. And so for me, God loved me so much that I never experienced any form of abuse. I never experienced any negative thing. I just grew up without a father, but I could already feel that gap that I would not want it to happen to my child, you understand. So that's why I could not just specifically say that I want to have a child. I'm always like, if God wants me to have a child, he will definitely bring the person who can actually take care of these children. Because I realize that it's a 2 effort. It's not a 1 effort. And sometimes I would look at my mom and be like, what she has had to go through alone, the intensity of it. Most people look at single mothers and they see them as, useless people. But the things that they have to go through is a lot, you understand? So I grew up shielding myself. And also these children who are coming out of, a single parenthood, they need to be at a place where, they have accepted their situation. They have tried to heal, from the absence of one parent, you understand? And that's why, this separation, was not a very good thing for me. So God made me understand that, we always expect our parents to come out as perfect. But in real sense, our parents also were once children, So they are just seeing this life for the first time, you understand? So they were also trying to navigate. When it came to me, I felt like my parents should have already, either manned enough or womaned enough so that they can be able to know this is how you take care of a child. You don't leave a woman by herself to take care of the kids. But then God made me realize that, they are actually living life for the first time. And another thing is that, You know, if somebody has not healed from where they come from, they become that, you understand, even without their knowledge. Because I'd find my father at times, he would just text me and be like, hey, my daughter, I wish you all the best in life. I hope that you're faring well. You understand? How do you want me to help you? You understand? Even if he would not help me, you understand, I always felt like, okay, he's trying, it's just that he doesn't know how to. And it made me be at a place of understanding and knowing people are different. There are people who would want to express and say that, you know what, I love you, but they did not grow up in that setup of, they never grew up in that setup of I love you. So God gave me that understanding. It did not just come gradually. Of course, I would fight with my conscience and be like, no, at least he'd be human enough to say, you know what, I'd take responsibilities. But yeah, and he's the type of a person who would never say, you know, I'm sorry. You look for somebody to blame, you understand, and look like the good guy, you understand. So I just found myself that I wasn't born to hate. And so I just released that pain. And I was like, you know what? It's time to release him. If I was going to become someone's wife, eventually get children, I need to release him so that I can be able to create my life. So it comes at a place of understanding. It comes at a place of you being selfless, even if you know that, you know what, you deserve more, you deserve better. You understand? So for me, it took me so much to actually become, you know, who I am today. And that's why I would not negotiate it with any other thing. You understand? Guys, you have to forgive me. Children are on holiday, so they're just up and down, and we have to do this video. Either way, we have to do this video. So I'm here speaking to you that is listening. So, and that's why today I'm speaking to someone who is at a place of brokenness because of what people did to you. And I know most times it's very hurtful things that people have done to you. I'm not coming here to convince you that you should forgive, as the Bible says, forgive 77 times. You understand? So not coming at a place where, you know, the Lord's Prayer says that God should forgive us our sins as we forgive those who trespass against us. I'm not there. I am just at a place of, you deserve to let go. So I'm just at a place where I feel like it's high time you access freedom. It's high time you let go so that you can live a very beautiful life without you carrying baggages because of somebody's traumas, because of somebody's, you know, reckless nature, you understand, or rather because of somebody's maltreatment, because of somebody's behavior, you understand. I'm just here at a place of, you need to let go for the sake of peace, for the sake of your own peace, for the sake of your own sanity. I'm telling you guys, if I tell you the things that people have done to me, and I've been able to be at a place of forgiveness, you'll be like, hey Ash, you are just on another level. You see, we do not forgive because we are able. It is God who gives us the strength. Remember this verse I continue to tell you every single day. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. So I am here to just be at a place where I want to free you. I want to free you. See, the way Pharaoh was, he had to just surrender, you understand, so that the children of Israel can be able to reach the promised land. I want you to just free. I want you to free these people, because at the end of the day, even if you carry them, you know, most of the time, reality is they would never come at a place where they'll be like, you know what, let me just ask for forgiveness. Let me just say I'm sorry. Most of them are not ready to even say they are sorry. So you are the one who's going to keep on hurting yourself and carrying these people while they are moving on with their life. You understand? I hope God gives you the healing. You know, this is a very sensitive topic, but I had to talk about it because I felt like, you know what, forgiveness is one of the reasons that most of us are not able to push forward, are not able to become our best selves, because there's somebody who just dictated who you are supposed to be because of his, you know, his mannerless acts, you understand, you know, and this person made you become who you are not. You know, you're a very loving man, you understand. So why don't you experience love? Why don't you just give love a second chance? If somebody is willing to give you what another person did not give you, if you are a woman, you know, why should you become a bitter person? God is actually giving you people who are like, you know what, we love you, we want to embrace you, you know, they want to help you, they want to make sure you're okay, you understand. So I feel like sometimes, or rather most times, we put ourselves in situations where we carry people who have already, you know, there are people who will carry that guilt. They will never ask you for forgiveness, you understand. So it makes you go 10 times behind while these people are actually moving in front. This is a secret I'm actually stealing for you. One thing I have actually realized is that, you know, once you forgive, karma comes quickly. And I don't want you to forgive someone because you want karma to come quickly. But I've been at a place where, I never thought I'd forgive people. But the moment I forgave them, the more God dealt with them. You understand? Remember, even the Bible says that this battle does not belong to you. The battle belongs to God. I'm actually going to put the verse over here. So the more you forgive, the more you are giving God a chance to deal with them. You understand? Because everything that you do here on earth will actually be repaid here on earth. You understand? Don't be at a place where you're carrying so much baggage. It limits you from the potential of becoming someone great. And I've actually seen it has helped me so much. I have been able to become my best self. You understand? That even my father himself, when he looks at me, he's like, you know what? Yes, I have a previous family, but I wish I had this father and daughter kind of a relationship. You understand? Yeah. And when you interact with him, he's like, you're so smart. You're very intelligent. I like the way you conduct yourself. I like the way you do things for yourself. You understand? So it's just that he cannot undo what has been already done. You understand? And even if he doesn't tell me he's sorry, I know that for a very fair fact, it's just that he doesn't know the means to. You understand? There are people who do not know how to approach you. There are people who are generally just like that. They're never remorseful. You understand? So with that being said and done, I just want you to forgive people, not because they have asked you for forgiveness. Forgive that person for you. You understand? Yes. I know you tell me, Ash, do you know how this person made me go through certain things? I understand. But for the sake of your own life, for the sake of your own future, just forgive them. You understand? Forgiveness gives you the liberty to become your better self. And receive right now, I have so much peace, and I do not take that as my identity. You understand? Yeah. And yeah, I'm also trying slowly by slowly to see, how best I can be able to interact with my father. And by forgiveness, and one thing I failed to forgive, and also another thing you should know, that you're not forgiving people to rekindle back the relationship that you had. No, forgiveness is actually for yourself. Another thing I want you to learn is that you're not forgiving people to rekindle connections with them. You're just forgiving them for your own sake and for your own peace. A lot of the times we end up getting hurt because you are forgiving people with the intentions of rekindling what you had together, or restoring back the kind of relationship you had together. No, it doesn't have to happen that way. You understand? Yes, unless you yourself you have examined this person and you have felt that you want them back in your life. So you're not forgiving people so that you can be able to bring them back in your life. You're just forgiving them so that you can be able to become your best version and live a life that is stress-free, live a life that is not full of bitterness. You understand? So I hope this particular video actually helped someone. Yes, we did a little bit. We did it in a hurry a little bit because of time, and also because the children are playing outside there. But in case you have questions related to this particular video, so forgive people for your own sake. Forgive people for your own sake so that you can also live a stress-free life. Okay? So as I was saying, in case you have any question concerning this particular topic, you can let me know there on the comment section. And also, if you want to follow me on my other social media platforms, all the information is actually on the description box. You understand? Yes, from my Instagram to my TikTok to every other thing. Sawa. Yes, and live a stress-free life, and don't allow your life to do not cocoon your life to one particular experience or different kinds of experience to determine who you are. You understand? You deserve to live in freedom. And also, with that being said and done, I'm also urging you to interact with our previous video where we talk about my testimony of salvation, how I met Jesus Christ, where I was at that particular time, and how my journey has been raw and unfiltered. Okay, so that you can get to know me on a deeper level. And for those who are still here for the second time, for the third time, and have not yet subscribe to our YouTube channel, you are actually letting us down. And make sure you hit that subscribe button, share, like, comment, and let me see you on the next one. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Forgive.